Twilight held whispers of creeping death. The swamp was alive, it had eyes that could see, but Asian glow burned brighter than the trees. Asian glow, lighting up the fight, casting shadows into the endless night. He's a hero born when the moon hangs low. The swamp's demise is his Asian glow. His past a soldier, now something divine. Swamp jaws snapping, yet he stands in time. Radiant veins, pulse fiery gold. A glow like no story that's ever been told. Asian glow, lighting up the fight, casting shadows into the endless night. He's a hero born when the moon hangs low. The swamp's demise is his Asian glow.
Good evening, chat. I hope everyone has had a pretty good month since the last time that we've talked. Let us know if we are coming in nice and clear. And we have a few people with us today. We're looking at 91. That's not so bad. We started the last one with like 12.
Nice.
So late and gay. Yeah, well.
Let me just say, I could listen to that intro in the gym and be perfectly happy.
So it's a pretty good album. Not
It's
gonna lie.
so good. It's so good. It gets me every time.
Well, the fun fact, I'm late because I played that intro thinking we were live and I wasn't. So, you know, I am very close to my mid-30s, so I'm going to have to blame it on that at that point. So today, while we wait for everyone to get in here, I'm going to introduce our little cast from the last stream. Libby has returned. Good old Evan. He was in at the ground floor of a lot of the class development, and he's helped me teach a bunch of stuff. Last thing that he helped me teach was a small unit tactics class out in Mississippi. That was a really good time.
That was a real good time. I think I slept for like 2 days after that.
Yeah, it was a pretty good 5 days out there.
Middle of nowhere, and all the sticks.
Yeah. Next, we have Nick, not the editor. He was the primary editor, and he trained up my wife to do it for him because, well, he was going to fire rock salt into his eyes if he was going to continue dealing with my shit.
So much so.
The amount of time that I have made this man, the number of man hours that I have made this guy soak into something as simple as where does this joke go? Yeah, so there's that. And
For some definition of joke, just for the record.
And we have Oberon from all the way out in Alaska, Mr. Walk into a burning building himself.
That's me.
He took his first official class with us fairly recently. He went to the AK class that we taught in Pennsylvania, showed up with an underfolder because he likes to be really, really rude to himself.
Dude, I got back to my hotel room and both sides of my jaw were swollen and I had bruises all over my shoulders. I was like, man, I look like I got into a bar fight. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah, we, as you could probably figure out, we do a lot of switch shooting, and also his face figured that out. So while we wait for the chat to fill up a little bit, we're just going to talk about dumb stuff that we've been doing as of late. I will lead off with two things. So I released a Langdon tactical video yesterday, right? And one of my principal complaints was for their customer service. They actually didn't reach out to us, was what I said in that video. Now, Amy Langdon reached out to me today. Like, we had a phone conversation, and through their system, it was more or less confirmed that they did attempt to contact us, just for one reason or another. We checked our spam and that sort of stuff. They just didn't actually, we didn't receive it for one reason or another. Now, I have no reason to believe whatsoever that they do any timestamp editing or anything like that. So, well, okay, that removes a big chunk of the complaint that I had was, well, they were willing to fix a lot of that. By the way, I linked to a video in that video, and it's from this guy right here. He had himself a bit of an issue with a PX4 Storm. But point is that, okay, they actually did try to reach out to us. We just didn't see it for one reason or another. So, and especially per the conversation that we had, I'm going to do like a dedicated video on this. There's a lot of extra little details here. But I will say that I'm willing to give them another shot. They will have no idea when it's coming because I don't know what type of gun or what type of work it will be. But I'm willing to give them a second shot because that it makes sense to me, right? Someone coming from the position of I own a business too, and I have a lot of personal and emotional investment in my baby, right? This is their baby. So we will give that another shot. Also, I'm like, I don't even know how many years late to the party, but like 4 days ago, less than that, I got Ready or Not for the first time. And that's a gear shift, because blamming every armed thing with a Scar Heavy or a 416 is negatively nodded at in that game. And the style of building clearing I have been brought up to use is very violent and very fast, and you run the rabbit a lot, and this game really, really hates it when you move fast. So there's that. Also, my dude, what are you doing? just have $20. Well, I appreciate that. Also nice AK. So now there's going to be a point in time where we actually talk about our individual 6 Sauer experience now that we're about 8 minutes in. However, Obi does have to run because he is presently doing the working thing at present. But he felt strongly about his 6 Sauer experience. And the fun fact is the three of us have no idea what it is. And I'm sure it's awful.
Oh, I have a story. So I turned 21 in the great year of 2019. And, when you turn 21, one of the first things that you want to go do is buy your first handgun from a gun store. Right. So I drove down to my local Sportsman's Warehouse, and I went with a buddy of mine, and I was checking out a bunch of different guns. I was going through all the striker fired 9s. So I was looking at the FN 509. I was looking at the Glock 19. I think there was a VP9 there, but that was like way expensive. And I was like, yeah, I don't have that kind of money. Right. And Mr. Salesman behind the counter sees fit to tell me all about the Sig Sauer 320 X carry. Like, oh, it's got a better trigger. It's got this nice grip. Like, it's cool. It's small. And we've got them on sale. And I'm like, oh, how much? $500 for a, P320X carry at the time. And I was like, that's a heck of a deal. Like, I played around with them, played with the triggers, played with grips, whatever. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll go through with this. So I bought my X carry way back then. And that was the first gun I had bought as a 21-year-old. And I remember, okay, so going for my concealed carry permit in the state of Alaska. I had one at the time, don't have it anymore, it's expired. But I remember I had this 1911 that my grandpa gave me, and I had the Sig 320, and each of them were in my hands, and I was like, what am I going to call with? Like, what do I take to this class? What do I shoot, practice with? And I was like, man, if I can't do it with this 1911, I don't deserve a 9mm. So I threw that Sig to the side, took the 45 to the class, shot it, quelled, got the permit, super easy, obviously. But ever since I got Salesman, everything's gone real downhill. I really wanted the P320 to succeed as a pistol because I did like it. I think it was neat. It was a neat concept. I hadn't heard of it. I was still a neonate. I'm still a neonate to the gun world. I'm coming into it more and more, learning more. But yeah, that X carry that got sold quick enough that it should have been probably considered a straw purchase. later on down the line, I ended up picking up the Flux Raider, and I had an M18 that I played with a little bit. I remember one day I was shooting at the range with my Glock, and I went to go. We were doing some one-handed stuff. I went to go rack the RMR off my belt, and this just constitutes how strong the RMR is. I snapped my belt buckle with it, and was like, "Huh, okay, guess I better go get my shooting belt," which was set up for my M18. After a long day of dropping Glock mags in the mud, I dropped that Sig mag in the mud one singular time, and the pistol just would not work after that. Like, it didn't matter if I switched magazines, it didn't matter if I cleaned it and oiled it. It just did not want to go any further. One mag drop. Meanwhile, those Glock mags, they ran all day in the Alaskan silt mud. So I got a sour taste in my mouth for the M18. I got a sour taste in my mouth for the X-Carry. And the Wandering Zero issue on the Flux Raider is absolutely real. And that is what I will say about that.
Because Wandering Zeros is exactly what I friggin' want to deal with. Yeah, it's my issues with the 320 have nothing to do with safety as a trainer, for the most part. I say for the most part because in classes we've had a couple of out of battery detonations, which that's fun. Thankfully, during all three, because I've had three in the middle of class, aside of some minor cuts, a little bit of burning and requirement for new pants, you know, those were really not big issues. They really could have been, because we look at where some of these out of battery detonations had occurred, right? Splitting frames, things like that. And that could have been real bad. And two of the three, actually, interestingly enough, were one-handed. I don't know if that assists in that issue, maybe because of the violent geometry change of how the gun is being fed. I'm not sure. But there's that. Their factory optics plates are, hard to believe, worse than a Glock MOS's. And the Glock MOS plate, like, you have to go by their torque spec or you'll start bowing things. Those plates are known to be not very good, but every single optic I've seen slap shot itself off of a handgun into somebody's face was based around that plate system, which is hilarious considering that. And again, as a trainer, it's annoying to see somebody like they're excited. I just got an MPX, right? And they show up, they want to do some night vision stuff. And of course, you react in the same way that you would if somebody says that the best whiskey they've had in their life was English. You just reply with, "Oh dear," because that laser is not hanging on. It's not going to hold zero. It's not going to do what it wants to. And the fragility of Sig Sauer manufactured magazines is a known quantity at this point, right? Never mind the fact that, well, there's some other issues too. But if either one of you also has Sig Sauer, and by the way, the sample size that I have is at this point quite a lot, because I see quite a few students a year, and I see a great many number of rounds fired from the student base. The latest average is around 1 million. Not hyperbole. It's per year, plus or minus a little bit over, a little bit less, 1 million rounds witnessed a year. So anytime that I was teaching a class that was Sig Sauer product heavy, I prepared my backup guns because stuff was about to get retarded. And I don't know why it is that, you know, a company that is trying to gaslight the entire public into thinking that they make good products, I don't know how you can come to that conclusion based off of that. Never mind the military experience, right? As far as handguns and combat engineers and the reserves are concerned, you could probably estimate that we don't shoot handguns very often. I have never been on a handgun qualification range that wasn't replete with 320 stoppages. And considering that prior to that, it was M9 qualifications, where the closest thing to stoppages that you get, where these things are so tore up and so overused, that if you fired the thing, the M9 would cycle like that, right? But they would still try their damnedest to work, even with magazines that are much older than me. It's a little wild that, you know, these are not range fodder trash magazines yet. These units don't do anything with them, and you still have tons of issues. So, you know, it is, yeah. And of course, Wyoming Gun Project, yeah, of course. Now, this is halfway a lie, right? And obviously he's laughing. He's not trying to push the point. It's the most tested now at this point because enough people are like, maybe we should enter a lab and figure out what the hell is going on. Nick, you have been very patient with your experience. You bought yourself an M17, so like the worst of the lot.
Well, and so it's interesting, right? Because I like the idea behind sort of the modular handgun system. I like the idea of, getting a grip that fits your hand because everybody's hands are a little different and ergonomics are a thing. And so right after the MHS launched, the original guns had coyote colored controls. The Army decided that it wanted black controls for whatever reason, and Sig's answer was, you know what, it's going to be cheaper for us to just give you 5,000 new guns. We'll take those ones back, as opposed to shipping parts and having armorers swap things out. And so Sig, in an attempt to make money from consumers, sold those 5,000 guns onto the civilian market. They were not available in huge quantities. Some places had like raffles to, could win a prize to buy a gun. And I, in fact, entered a free contest for the right to buy a decommissioned M17. I bought the decommissioned M17. It was very, very cool, right? The thing showed up. It was clearly used. It had been, tested and fielded. And I actually did a FOIA request and I got the paperwork. So I knew when the gun was entered into the DoD inventory, when it came out, where it was. Very, very cool. I got the Leupold Delta Point Pro, with the footprint for the M17. I mounted it. I was really excited about it. I took it to the range to zero the optic. And I think the third round through it, the gun had an out of battery detonation and exploded in my hand. Oops. Cracked the frame, yeeted the ejector or the extractor sort of off into the darkness somewhere. Bunch of smoke and powder in my face. I'm kind of bleeding all over the range. And it was interesting because it turns out like a week earlier, Sig had settled a lawsuit about out of battery detonations. So that was neat. The nice guy at the range, once I was done bleeding all over, it said, "Would you like us to send this back to Sig for you?" And I said, "Yep, that's great. Go ahead." And Sig, of course, blamed me, blamed the ammo. The gun cannot fire out of battery. It is physically impossible. And I'm like, my guys, the frame is cracked. It's covered in my blood. So that gun now sits in a little display case in the basement, and it will never, ever, ever get fired again.
And it's just kind of funny the supporting comments, right?
It was perfect to see the bad ammo comment come up right as Nick was like, "Oh, they told me it was bad ammo."
I'm trying to keep up with it, really, like because people, for a stream that has no right to have 232 people on it, the chat's moving a little bit.
I would like to say that in 2 years of sitting on a TRADOC M9 range, watching 60 officers every 2 weeks shoot M9s, M9 qualifications, sometimes 3 or 4 times before they qual. I saw M9 slides break in half. I saw the lock and blocks break, but I never, and I mean never, saw an out of battery detonation like that. Not once. I saw a bunch of other shit, but no one ever got hurt by it. Like, even when the slide broke in half, the back of the slide just stayed, and the front of the slide just shot off into the air. But those guns were all original, like 10,000 serial number guns that had who knows how many rounds put through them. And I never saw anything like that.
And it's worth it to note that it's funny that we're starting to see truckloads of issues with the 320 pistol, as a lot of people predicted that they would, because the Army, the military, wholesale, is, well, perfect. This.
Yeah.
He stole the words right out of my mouth. It
It's
came up
very-
right as I was beginning to explain this. And yeah, this is exactly it.
Even the 3 shop was using, sometimes you'd find Taurus barrel locking blocks for the M, like put into the M9 to replace the M9, the Beretta ones. We found all sorts of shit that they would do to like make their penny go a little further on that gun. And it still didn't do that.
I mean, it's a real testament to the M9 in and of itself, mostly because, look, I've seen guys like deploy before, and they had the same handgun the whole time that they were out there, and they come back, and only then did somebody notice, like when we got back, that the slide was cracked on the friggin' thing. Nobody had a clue. Nobody had a clue. It didn't act different the whole time. And I doubt that would be the same for one of their products. But there's a whole lot of other stuff going on in the middle of all this too, right? So individual experiences aside, right? So we can catch everybody up more or less on the latest, and the latest being essentially the tiny little fire that they put out right next to a forest fire. Sig Sauer had the opportunity to be like, we got one, vindication, because an airman was killed by a handgun, and then a second airman was essentially arrested and charged, and falsifying a report. This is all public knowledge at this point, right? But the thing is, the thing nobody talked about, or that nobody really said, but I'm pretty sure everybody thought, was, oh, so the airman didn't accidentally sunset himself, right? His boy sat his down in a holster. That's what I think most likely happened, right? And when that public knowledge comes out, because investigations are investigations, we obviously have to see what's what. But he probably was like, "No, it was his," right? And then they just went to the mall, and they're like, "Nah, dude, that serial number is yours, Doug." But the thing is that obviously anyone that's tracking this has seen report after report after report after report of, or video evidence of dudes just walking around and then guns exploding in or firing in holsters. Then the amount of button cams on cops where dudes like just getting out of the car, blow,
Bang.
Yeah, I would love to see any instance of that happening with an M9 as a for instance, right? Because past all the woes that the 1911 put on service members during World War I and II and post that, which, by the way, a lot of people don't realize this, it was a great many. Like, it injured a lot of people because the thing was absolutely not drop safe, and guys would carry the gun around loaded with the hammer down. And you still have a firing pin doing whatever it wants. So following this, the entire United States military was just kind of like, I would rather not have a 7-shot handgun, right? Especially the Air Force, because realistically speaking, if there's someone that should have an opinion on a handgun, is fighter pilots, right? These are guys that are exiting Vietnam like, yeah, we had a lot of dudes eject, and what am I supposed to do? Just have a 7-shot pistol?
Some guys just had 38s. Yeah, some guys just had either 38 Liberties or some snub nose Model 10 or 12.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm good, dude. And then the M9 comes out, and I mean, if you just look at how that thing is constructed, I mentioned in the video I released yesterday, my secondary MOS is 91 Fox. That's small arms artillery repair. So when I was coming up and when I was being trained up for this MOS, right, you have to, I mean, strip to the frame, everything. So like we did anything with the M9s in that regard because they don't supply you any parts, but that's besides the point. Point is that if you hold that MOS, the M9 is of particular annoyance, mostly because there's a lot of stuff going on, and getting through all of its safety systems and taking all the junk that it uses to keep itself safe, like out of the slide so that you can strip it bare. you're provided a lot of insight into exactly how safe this pistol is. It's not just a locking block. It's not just a double action. It's not just a single action. It's not just its ability to decock itself and then manual safety. It's an amalgamation of all those things. And then also the action is really reliable, right? So, yeah, would you rather, hold on. I will take a Series 70 cocked and locked appendix every single time, twice on Sunday. Why? I know what the circumstances are to get that thing to fire in my pants. And I'm probably not going to approach any friggin' trampolines. You know? So every single time and twice on Sunday. I'm not even sure if that was a real question or not, because, you know, people just be talking to tons of that stuff. But you know, well, I'm gonna tell you something right now. It really does. It really does. During the M17 trial, when it's $100 million cheaper than a 19X for the same quantity of stuff, dude, the military it really loves itself some cheap shit. But obviously, when a product is so bad that the Marines are like, we have to reevaluate our equipment. The permanently broke dudes that need everything as cheap as possible, you have an issue.
It's why they got rid of all their tanks and snipers, right? What was it, tanks and something else? Marine Corps got rid of a whole bunch of stuff, and then they started buying a whole bunch of fancy equipment. Like,
well, yeah, it's because they have to be light and fast, you see.
And they got to spend that money they saved by canning the other stuff.
So,
still get
for the record, I've got a cousin who's a MARSOC raider, and his little brother is a Marine Corps officer, and both of them have told me that both of their units are like, yeah, we're not carrying the SIG. Like, we're going to the Glock 19 every time.
Just works.
Oh boy.
Well, yeah, and I think the death of this airman, however it came to pass, just sort of provided this sort of emotional moment where everybody went, okay, here's the thing we can point to and just do the thing we've wanted to do for a while because of all the other data that we've seen. And Sig's response to it, of course, which I know we'll get to at some point, has just been amazing and very, very Sig-like.
I am sending something in the chat that I'm not going to repeat in public really quick. But yeah,
that's probably a good time for me to dip out. So I appreciate you guys having me on even for a little bit, just to tell my story, but I will see you guys next time.
All right, man. Have a good night.
Yeah, y'all too.
Yeah. So you guys can read that if you want to.
Read that. Deal with that later.
Yeah, I will in fact deal with it later.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll just have to chat tomorrow. So, but in any case, right? So it's not just a report after report after report after report, and there's a lot of published documents, particularly with the Air Force, that are a little hot underneath the collar about the 320 in general, because well, and it makes sense too, right? Their most common use is, their security forces, right? Air Force bases are huge. These guys are all over the place. They're carrying loaded guns around all the time. And a whole friggin' Air Force command decided to suspend their use of the 320. And I actually don't know. I do not know what they are replacing that with. Probably rifles, I'm assuming. Which, man, that's got to just suck, right? Dude, just some kid walking around with an M4 at some checkpoint, just standing there like an idiot all day long.
Yeah, I actually think somebody leaked one of the memos. They are issuing M4s instead of the handgun for now.
Oh, that's brutal. Just to stand there with it for like your whole friggin' workday, and it's not like they're like cops, dude. They're going to be there for 12 hours a day, man. So that sucks. But that is what it is. But here's the thing: everybody already knows a whole lot about the 320 stuff. A lot of people have dug into it. A lot of people have talked about it and that sort of thing. And at this point, it's no secret. Everyone understands. And we just spent 30 minutes talking about it anyway, right? But here's the deal, right? we have it's sort of lengthy, but we're going to go through this guy right here. Is this on the screen?
No.
Not yet.
It is?
No.
Nope. Okay, hang on. Let me fix that. Aha, there it is.
Now it is. There you go.
Alrighty. So this goes into some details and it more or less summarizes the whole thing. And this more or less has to do with conduct more than anything else. Because, of course, a lot of people are already tracking that Sig Sauer knew about their safety issues for some years after this, right? And it may take a little while, but the read in and of itself is not terribly long. And there are some important notes to go by on this. And you guys can follow along if you want to, that sort of thing. But essentially, the article goes into how Sig Sauer knew that there were issues from the start. A court exhibit recently published online summaries Sig Sauer's internal P320 testing and shows the gun maker and U.S. Army were both aware of serious safety risks with the pistol since at least 2017, years before it was fielded to soldiers as the full-size M17 and compact M18. The document, prepared as a part of Sig Sauer's contracting process with the U.S. Army, outlines multiple ways a pistol could fire without an intentional trigger pull. Now, this, of course, outlines a lot of the issues that we already knew, right? And more or less before they could cover it up, because this is what this goes into. A redacted version of the court document was originally filed on May 14th in a case between the attorney Jeffrey Bengal and Sig Sauer. On July 24, a gun blogger, of course, was able to delete the purported redactions and post an unredacted version of the document. On July 28th, Sig Sauer filed a motion requesting that the court remove the exhibit from public access, but gun tubers, social media users reposted it before the court ruled. Now, this is an uncommon practice. Like if there's some sort of research thing going on, and if there's some sort of inquiry into possible engineering issues, a lot of times there are redacted documents that are provided to courts and things like that. So this isn't terribly, terribly out of bounds just yet. But this gets into, worse as we go. And it gets into very old Kimber. In that, in an August 6th interview, Sig Sauer Senior Vice President of Customer Affairs, Phil Strader, acknowledged that the company created the document in response to a request by the U.S. military and claimed that is being used to confuse the issue. I don't know how you confuse that issue when there are safety issues with your pistol, but Strader also described the content of the document and the various risks analyzed by Sig Sauer engineers. With respect to its confidentiality, Strader said, "Now that it is out there, we don't mind. We'll discuss it exactly. I'll go line by line if you wanted me to." The transparency issue is obviously the problem, right? Because we don't really want to talk about it until we don't have a choice but to talk about it. And what this further goes into is more or less, and you can go to the smokinggun.org and it's very easily searched to this. There is an entire document essentially bringing up the simple fact that they sort of drafted a risk assessment for anyone who knows what that is, right? Where it's like, here's these possible issues and here's how we reduce them, right? A lot of these solutions are obviously training, but some of these are engineering issues that they said that they fixed, but they never did. So it's, it's a little bit, it's a little bit fucky and wucky there.
Well, what's interesting, right, is if you read the whole article, a huge number of their fixes were, we'll just train the users better because it's their fault. Right, this will be fine if the consumer using the firearm does exactly these things and doesn't do these other things. There's a pattern there, right? It's not the gun's fault; it's your fault. You were, to quote the late Steve Jobs, "You're holding it wrong."
Yeah,
that was Sig's approach to most of this.
Yeah, it is. interesting that this pattern of behavior is essentially them trying to say over and over again, skill issue. And the number one proponents of Sig Sauer products that are not Sig Sauer are not all that skilled. So, there's that. And it's just over and over again, the same attitudes, the same practices. This isn't a just now issue. But again, these are all things that we know what exactly, more or less. We understand this because it's more recently reported. What I do want to talk about is things that people do not at present, because for some reason, while talking about the 320, nobody wants to talk about the Spear. So you guys tell me if this makes sense to you, right? The shortest service rifle in American history was the M14. And via a bunch of graft, devious stuff and actual dead troops, these people tried to manufacture a use case for a rifle that wasn't very good really at anything, and it still kind of isn't to this day unless somebody else tunes them up. Because you have a squad automatic rifle that was really, really difficult to control. You had a infantry battle rifle that you couldn't carry a lot of ammunition for. You had a firearm that you had intended to bring all over the world, and its first real test is a jungle. And even though there's a lot of advancements in stock technology at this point in time, we're still going to use wood and easily rustable finishes and all of the stuff that we're used to seeing at this point. And then we go to the M16, then later the M4 carbine. And now we're going to go back to a full-size battle rifle. A full-size battle rifle, you guys tell me if this makes sense to you, that has 2 charging handles on it. I would really love to know why it is that a regular infantry rifle requires a T-style charging handle and a folding side charging handle.
More is better.
Yeah, right.
If one is good, 2 must be, twice as good.
With an ambidextrous bolt release on it. Like, come on, guys. And of course we're using extremely high pressure ammunition. And this is all, again, stuff that people know. However, one of the bigger issues that a lot of guys have, and this is the Spear Light first, is that they're not very good rifles, because Sig Sauer's QC is the exact sort of QC that you would expect from a company that sources most of its parts, or a large majority of its parts, from India. Fun fact, by the way. So the main issue, for instance, for the Spear Light, and the Heavy has this, but to a lesser degree, is barrel deflection issues, because the barrel is wobbling around in the receiver, right? Like, what modern fighting rifle is that acceptable? Okay. Probably the worst muzzle device attachment method I've really seen in a long time. There's a bunch of people that have had experiences with having to cut off their muzzle devices, which is interesting that for a rifle that is supposed to be super modular and all that stuff, I can't remove a friggin' muzzle device off of it. Also, and I don't know who needs to hear this, right? But if the difference between the Spear, which is much more expensive than the MCX, is that there's some titanium parts in it, all this really says to me is that it exists for markup purposes. And the markup purposes are real, because I don't know if you two actually know this, but the Spear is $5,000 a unit.
Yep. And that's just that. That's not counting all the other shit. Didn't they say it was going to be like $100K a troop to replace everything?
It significantly less than that, but ultimately ridiculous.
Yeah,
as far as that is
still
concerned.
a preposterous amount
It's a preposterous amount because when your infantry small arms ammunition rivals M2 ammunition, we have a friggin' problem.
Yep.
And in order for this, by the way, there's a lot of people who are like, but it's armor piercing. Okay. Here's the nature of armor piercing ammunition, especially in this format. In order for it to actually pierce level 4 body armor, all the stars needs to be aligned. Like every single one of them. Like if it's outside of a lab condition, I do not know why all of my dogs are moving around right now. Can you guys even hear that?
Not really. You're good.
Okay. So, like, it requires all the stars to be aligned, relatively speaking, for actual use case. Plus a winning lottery ticket, and somewhere, someplace, a voluntary for love supermodel threesome needs to occur to like a Warhammer 40K furry. Okay. Like this stuff all has to happen at the exact same time in order for this to actually pierce level 4 armor. And also our adversary nations don't wear it past the first couple of waves. So
and
the
use they do have is fucking nonsense.
Yeah, and the tagline that they're trying to use to sell this stuff to people is, it's overmatch. Right. That doesn't matter all that much when all of the adversary nations fighting us outnumber us at least 3-1. As far as general manpower is concerned. You close the gap by giving people the ability to fight. And you don't do that by limiting their ammunition. Both the manufacturing capability, because the process required to make this is ridiculous, because it is a multi-stage case. That's retarded. In addition to that, right, the guns are getting, and again, I don't know if people watching this don't know this, but the guns are getting eaten alive. Like imagine the 40 caliber handgun problem where it's eating pistols, magnified by a lot. A lot, right? Like guns are going down for the count in like 5,000 rounds. A lot. Okay, and the guys that are getting this are like 101st Airborne and like 82nd Airborne, right? Where, you have these coked up air assault or paratroops that are gonna shoot a lot because that's their practice. And now they go train to op-eval these things, and they're annihilating the guns without much effort at all. Okay. And the problems do, in fact, get a whole lot worse, because this is the same across the board for both the light and the heavy. Because the bad QC isn't limited to just the civilian market either, because it seems to all be the same. Reports are coming in of incorrect handguard assembly, like shifting 0, and even more than the barrel deflection because it's moving around inside the friggin' receiver. Essentially making their laser mounting surfaces useless. Bolts, like the lugs, are catching / snagging, causing stoppages or straight malfunctions with sheared to heavy wear on the bolt lugs, which is incredible because I didn't realize that our reliability for bolt lugs is now less than that of a 2008 M4 carbine. That would go like 8,000 rounds and you'd snap 1 or 2 lugs off in a flash. Roll pins for your ejector, just going somewhere and sending the ejector itself into oblivion, which is great to have in a fighting rifle, right? And we're talking like super early. Too. There seems to be some sort of dimensional issue in that some guns, if a gun is afflicted by this, it's going to happen inside of like 500 rounds, which is okay, cool. We seem to have improper gas port dimensions in that the gas system either tends to be entirely too much or far too little gassed, regardless of the position that you're trying. So you could be on a loud setting, and it varies from rifle to rifle too, by the way, which is great, to where you'll have a full-size battle rifle in unsuppressed mode shooting unsuppressed at like a 5 o'clock ejection, which you absolutely do not need with a full-sized rifle. Right? That's a headache and a half because it just feels like a subway car is moving in your friggin' shoulder. And of course, this causes issues, right? Because non-permissive environments non-permiss. So, and this gets even worse because the Spear Heavy, right, with this super special ammunition is wallowing receiver pins out. Like, I haven't seen a wallowing receiver pin on an AR-10 or an M4 in a really long time. And that required like an AccuWedge and a lot of shooting, right? A lot of people don't even know what a friggin' AccuWedge is at this point, right? You know, and of course, you know, the Spear Heavy recoils like trash. So when you neck down 7.62 by 51 and pressure it up, of course, we're running into tons of issues. And of course, Sig Sauer is reporting that, oh, well, the infantry loves it. They love it. Yeah, and probably in the same way that they love their brigade fun runs and yellow ribbon events and family day and area beautification detail
And the beret.
and the beret. You know,
UCC and
yeah. As far as an infantry fighting rifle is concerned, this seems to be a big fat phony because what's the cost of an M4 carbine right now? Like $700 to the government.
Oh, government's probably 400 bones, 500 bones.
I think the actual per unit cost.
I mean, with the optic and everything, I'm just talking just the rifle.
Well, yeah, just a rifle. I think that a per unit cost of just a rifle is like $700 from FN right now.
Oh, from FN. Okay, that makes sense.
And I don't think that price has moved since the M4A1 became the standard infantry rifle.
Colt still had the contract when I was.
Well, okay, so let's say that this is the actual cost per individual unit is $850. How does that wash when your brand new fancy infantry rifle is $5,000 a unit, not including suppressor that is just supposed to be for everybody, I suppose? Yeah, because that's not a sensitive item at all, you know, and tracking that's not going to be annoying at all.
Oh bro, as supply, like in an armor, like I can't. An aim point and a pack was bad enough.
Yeah.
Now you got.
I shot a possum at like 80 yards with an M9 with the M9A4 randomly one day, and the dudes in my chat have not stopped giving me shit for it ever since.
And we won't. We love Fred, and we
They
miss
named him Fred
very, very much.
Bro, he would have been one of those guys like back in the day who his family like immigrated to America and like worked on the railroad and ran off into the mountains, and he's like killing possums at like 100 yards with a squirrel with a muzzle loading squirrel gun.
Yep.
and meanwhile, poor Fred was just eating ticks and not getting rabies.
Yeah,
and
just doing his thing.
You know, tragic.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about this too, right? So we have to talk about this being in conjunction with optics and stuff too, right? Because one problem is not independent of the other. Because as they're trying to op eval these things, by the way, before this even happened, before it got issued to units and that sort of thing, every previous service rifle to the Spear went through a military trial where the minds at the time figured out the toughest test that they could figure out within reason for a regular rifle. And this never happened at all. The reason you didn't hear about it is it never happened. So, what's that?
I was going to say, didn't the guy in charge of testing it get a nice package deal?
Yeah, because that's how grafting works. My point is, right, is that a military trial never actually happened. No one hears about one because there wasn't one. The M17 trial was already a farce, and once they got that contract, I said it before, it was for follow-on contracts, and here we are. And of course, we are fielding these things alongside of these optics that they're using. Now, these optics that they're using are supposed to be like the next, I was about to say space age, right? But that's a term that was used like 40 years ago, or more. Point is that it's the latest, greatest thing. Okay. And what it's supposed to be able to give you is more or less a way to auto range your target. It gives you an accurate assessment of how far away that is. With a laser, so in a modern peer environment, right, and one of the primary things that guys are running into is dead batteries, right? Because anything with a laser that you just leave on is going to parasitic drain. That's just where the technology is right now. And 2, they're overranging, right? And this is just like regular infantrymen, right? Now, you can say that's a skill issue. It absolutely is, right? But if you're handing this to line infantry, they're going to do line infantry things. They're overranging like a 70-yard target with a full-size battle rifle as an issue.
Don't most modern militaries also have the ability to catch a laser with pretty much all their military equipment and auto lock onto it? So if you're hitting them with like a good old-fashioned rangefinder, they can just bring that tank right to you.
So fun fact, during the good old GWAT, right, we had a system called the boomerang. Now, the boomerang would detect the more or less distance location of a supersonic crack near its hubs. So if somebody shot at you with a supersonic projectile, it would pick it up and be like, hey, shot 400 this direction, right? It was actually pretty good because as far as Afghanistan goes, you know, the hardest thing to figure out is where the hell is it coming from? Because dudes are shooting at you from mountains, not in the tree brush right next to you, right? As this system got upgraded, it got upgraded to the point where it could detect laser signatures. So this technology is very old, and it's very functional, and it's useful, right? So this was like, if you were doing a lot of night stuff, like, and you were really paranoid about it, like once a week, right? Because you're not firing and holding lasers on for like 4 hours. It just won't go that long. But like once a week, you make sure that goes down. And once every few days, you do the same thing for your PVS 14s or whatever, right? That's different from guys that are overusing lasers to detect, range, and fire on targets. And of course, now you suffer because your ability to range it with your eye holes decreases quite a bit. And by the way, lasers fire in a disc shape, right? The further away a target is, the bigger that disc gets, right? Because over time, right, it's only so intense of a laser beam.
Lightweight.
So if your target is tilted or if there's stuff between it, you can be off by a lot, like football fields off a lot, depending on what you're trying to detect. So we have things that are easily detectable by modern militaries that are being overused and overkilled that are not always as accurate as people think they are. And never mind the fact that they're using this with full-size battle rifles that you don't need the laser for the vast majority of the time anyway, because the round itself does fly pretty flat. I'll give it that. So yes, I understand that was for vehicles and that sort of thing, right? What I'm saying is that the technology to detect laser emissions that are being pointed at you is very old, it's very functional, and it's only gotten better and smaller. That's the point I was making.
Yeah. I
bet
the shit they got sitting at a battalion headquarters somewhere knows where all sorts of shit is coming from.
Yeah. Never mind the fact that all modern ISR uses IR, right? So, I got you, Bobertson. I thought you were directing that at me. So my point is that, you know, anybody that is detecting IR anything, right, or even green or white phosphor, they're picking up these lasers that are just firing out of dudes' rifles at this point. So, you know, that just is the case. And never mind the fact that the rifle is a pile of junk in very, very short order. And now they just want to make that the basic infantry rifle, which makes no sense. And, you know, this will catch up to them eventually, right? Because you can't sell an entire army $5,000 rifles when they can buy $800 rifles. And when the Army is already looking at reevaluating its position to other external piston rifles, like, for instance, they're not going to call it that, but an M27, because the Army does want to suppress a lot more, right? You have a colossal issue.
I was just gonna say to Bobbert's thing, I was referring to vehicles, but like dude's ND lasers and all, he was talking about how the scopes would stay on. So like if you're just patrolling and a vehicle is walking by and that shit comes out of the wood line, that tank's gonna see you from far.
Yep. Especially if you have that one dude that's like, I'll just range it, and he's unaware of this sort of detection gear. He just gave up his entire outfit. Now, of course, yeah, you can counter train, sure, but the point is that when the fight's on, the hardest part is figuring out where it's coming from, and you're drawing a literal straight line back to you and your element, which, to their credit, these units that have been issued these weapons are very much taking note of, right? And a lot of them are just going back to using the optic as a regular standalone, which makes more sense. But, of course, the government has to pay for these entire packages, right? And, like, good officers, good NCOs are teaching guys to just turn the damn laser off and use your eye holes. This is how we mill things, you know, stuff like that. You know, so it's a trash rifle with gimmicks. And what it reminds me of is the OICW Land Warrior project, if you guys remember that.
Hey, that was cool.
Listen. Well,
you don't want to carry an extra 80 pounds of batteries? What were the embedder batteries you had to have in that thing?
Was it embedder batteries?
Bro, everything was embedder batteries. That's what went the Javelin. That's what went the...
You know, well, I mean, when my rifle is like this tall in my shoulder, right? You know, they did shrink
like a slave cable going all the way to your
back. Dude, some real would you like to know more type shit. So yeah, this is far worse than people really understand, because it's not just a 320 issue. The much larger issue, at least in my mind, that the 320 is on its face what people are talking about right now, because they have fresh information on it. There's court documents because the thing is unsafe, all of that stuff. What is more the issue, and what is wasting a lot more money, arguably, is this rifle program, right? That is being aggressively pushed and advertised and all that other stuff. These guys are selling these rifles to people right now off the backs of this contract, which was never trialed, right? And Sig Sauer has never said that it is the most tested rifle of all time in the history of the universe, because I know it's not. They know it's not. It's actively being tested right now while simultaneously fielding the things. And I understand that's how you iterate, right? But rifles, especially at this point, are not fighter jets, right? You cannot hope to be successful while engaging in that practice. So that's the way worse part of it, is that, in addition to their conduct issues. Okay, I'm just going to list these, right? You know, the worst of it is that a convicted small arms trafficker and former timber CEO is leading this goat rodeo. That would be the CEO of Sig Sauer at present. Sig Sauer wants people to honestly believe that they make better products than Kel-Tec does. And I mean, shit, at least Kel-Tec makes or has good ideas. They don't execute them worth a damn, but at least they have good ideas. By telling you that all the issues are your fault, more or less. You know, report after report of uncommanded discharges, and of course, it's all users' fault, right? Also, we saw these people try and get people to snitch on trainers who ban their dangerous 320 from classes, likely in preparation for a lawsuit, which likely is not is only not happening because they're so incompetent that people found them out almost immediately. And also a suit would likely get some schoolhouse to get their verifiable proof, that they don't want out to the public, right? They already went to court with one guy because he made a YouTube video that gave you a 3D diagram confirming what we already know. This is exactly how this thing breaks. Now, some people might not know this part, but that is absolutely a thing that's happened. A guy set up a 3D diagram of exactly how the 320 fails, and they took that guy to court right away, right? And what's so much worse than any issue that you could run into as far as, you know, possible safety problems or whatever, is that the very second that trainers are like, you're not allowed to bring that anymore, now they're trying to get their own cult to more or less snitch on people so that they can draft up a bunch of lawsuits that have to most likely do with defamation. And that's a big fuck you.
Yeah, it's a problem, right? You know, it's one thing to have a product that's got some issues and challenges, and clearly the P320 is trash and has been trash since its inception. But their reaction to try and bury the story, gaslight the public, go after, I mean, they're suing some range in Washington State that banned the gun. The court threw that out. They're, hey, if you know any trainers that are banning our product, call this 800 number and we will correct their misinformation, which is, that's some interesting choice of words there, right?
It's some interesting choice of words from people that call me anti-gun because I'm anti my students being shot.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and you see what they've unleashed, right? So Ben Steger, who's covered the P320 debacle pretty extensively on Instagram, they mass reported him. He got knocked off of Meta's platforms for a couple days last week. They fixed it, but it was people flagging him. Yep. And I see this comment here. If you dare mention the P320 on Reddit, the Sigsters will just delete you completely.
Imagine having the ass hurt hotline.
Hurt Feelings Hotline. HFH.
Well, imagine having it and being so dumb that you don't understand people will talk about it, right? The Streisand effect is real, and Sig Sauer has just invoked it, you know, at a ridiculously high level.
I mean, this ain't wrong either.
Nope.
That's not even a little bit wrong, dude. You know. So and that's I'd venture to say zero, my guy.
Oh, that's not quite true, right? So Sig did, don't forget, they did their voluntary upgrade, which was that way when the guns failed and they could say, well, the user didn't take advantage or upgrade, it's their fault the gun discharged. So they did make a few changes. They've made rolling changes to the gun. None of them have worked. It's like the 365. They've made rolling changes to that gun since it came off the line. Those have actually made the gun better. The changes to the 320 have not done anything.
Can we just say this too? Can we just say this too, right? If pick a manufacturer that you like, right? We can take a look at their predecessors. Okay, we can take a look at Beretta. The last big issue, right, that Beretta ever had was that, you know, Navy SEALs are using ultra high pressure ammunition on their guns. They're breaking stuff. They're kicking up a big stink. They acknowledge immediately what this could be. And then they immediately snuffed that out. They took the United States government to court and won on a defamation case, that's impossible.
Wild.
Right? You have to be like 800 different kinds of correct. Right? And before that, you know, all of their competitors were like, well, you had hand select products for this military trial that we lost. And their response was, run it again. You want me to run it again? I'll run it again. We'll pull it out of 2 separate armories and 2 random locations. We'll run it again, and I guarantee we'll have the same results. The difference in that response from this response. Who, with safety issues, verifiable safety issues in their pistols, issues a voluntary upgrade What does that even mean?
It's a way to blame the end user if the gun fails. Oh, you had a problem with your gun. You should have
You
taken
should have
advantage
done
of
the
our voluntary
voluntary
upgrade,
upgrade on this
You
pistol
didn't
that
do
was
it.
never safe, that we never
Not my
recalled
fault.
because we don't give a
Answer-
shit about whether or not you live. I'm good, dude.
Mm.
Yeah, this. Yeah, we all know what PSA is about. They're about proliferation. And if something goes down, they'll be like, we'll just ship you a new one. You're probably right. What we shipped you is probably dog shit.
Well, and to be clear, PSA has released second generations of their guns, and they've said this fixes these problems with the first one, right? They acknowledge it, they fix it. They've made changes to a lot of their firearms, and their customer service is actually, okay. Yeah, there we go.
Look, and this makes sense to me, right? Like every single time that somebody shows up with a carbine class or whatever, and they're like, "Yep, I brought my PSA, fingers crossed," and I'm like, "Oh shit, they got a spare gun just in case, or you can use mine," and they'll be like, "Thanks, I might need it," right? Like they're not in denial about what they've got.
Nope.
They'll say, "Well, so far it's been pretty good," but obviously, so far I don't really know what that means, right? Because
Hey, man,
I'm about to blast 2,000 rounds through it. We'll see. Right.
Look, man, I love my AKV. There's a non-zero chance it's going to have an outer battery detonation if I run it too fast, but I still like it. Like I know it's a piece of junk, but it's fun, right? So that's fine, right? Nothing wrong with that.
No.
But I'm not saying that it's a great gun that is perfect in every conceivable way. Right? It isn't.
No. You just have to know the limitations of it, and at least it doesn't explode and just fire off in your holster. Allegedly.
Oh, and you better not sin now. Your 320 is gonna send you to hell. Like
like PSA makes products the way they make them. They know what they're
It's
about.
It's like Old Testament God inhabits these pistols. It's like you're not loving God enough, like Old Testament God, and he's just like, and then he smout 2,000.
It's like what's the old Kurt Baxter joke? You voided the warranty by putting stuff in your butthole. It's just
So there's an interesting bit in the chat right now about the dagger versus the P320, and I would say a stock dagger that you have not touched the internals on, absolutely safer than a stock P320.
Ellie, you need to not. My German Shepherd is making sounds at me.
Well, and Ellie should definitely not muck around with the internals of a dagger because that's just a bad idea.
Yeah, the dagger is 110% not a pistol that is to be fucked with on the internals, right?
Keep stock, it's fine.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like if you have a cracked slide or whatever, right? Like if you mess with the internals on it, that's a buyer beware, dude, kind of thing. However, if you don't touch the insides, it's fine, most likely. But again, still, even if something goes catastrophically wrong with the handgun, at the very least, PSA is going to be like, you're probably right. It was probably dog shit. That's made out of pot metal. We'll send you a brand new one. Please don't be mad.
Yep.
And that keeps people on the hook, dude. It keeps people on and I don't blame them for being on the hook, right? Like, I get it. And with the Sig Sauer stuff, it's a straight denial thing. And they just want to believe that Sig Sauer is a reputable company because some Navy SEAL says so.
It's
just a fact.
It's denial, deflect, and buy off some folks on the interwebs who will say kind, supportive, nurturing things about their products.
Listen, bro, I have a 320 and it's never had a problem. I lift weights.
So the highest one that I can confirm verifiably was mine. Because in a stock configuration, it went to 6,000 rounds. It was until I started treating it like a Glock, and a lot of people were quick to let me know of this fact. And it just is not anywhere near as modifiable as a regular Glock is. So I've seen it get to at least 6,000 rounds. I'm pretty sure that, you know, other people have shot them more, right? Because somebody out there just is not able to buy a different gun. Bullets went out every time, right? But where is it? At least they're honest about it, right? It's the raccoon meme. It's, I know I'm trash, but I'm free.
Look, you know, $250 for a Gen 3 Glock clone. If you're going to shoot that, that's great. And it's probably going to run for quite a while. If there's a problem with it, PSA will send you the parts to fix it, or they'll fix it for you. Don't touch the internals.
At fucking those prices, you can just New York reload a class.
Get a new one.
Just
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. Like, one of the reasons why I do what I'm doing, you know, and people can get mad at me for it, you know. I had a conversation with Amy Langdon today, right? I don't like it when it's very, very obvious that somebody's been paid all the way off to sell you something that is not safe. The GBRS and the gray guns thing, it's not just obvious shilling. It's irresponsibly dangerous shilling, because to straight up deny that this sort of stuff even exists. Like, it would be one thing if it's, I don't know where all this extra stuff is coming from, but mine's been fine. It's another thing entirely to deny its existence. Like, as a person with a brain, clearly these people are smarter than that. And when it's obvious that someone is smarter than that, that now you're purposely being obtuse. You are purposely trying to say a thing because you know people are going to listen to you, however few. And the check must be super solid, right? That's the big issue that I have with that more than anything else, because, you know, their refusal to take responsibility is already bad enough, but then these other guys are knowingly doing this stuff, right? You know, and of course, until the business stops coming, you know, this Kimber MiG-15 is going to burn a once respected name into the ground, and nothing's going to change until it does, really. They'll double down, they'll triple down, you know, and caught like a PDF file, you know, they'll do their very best to make themselves the victim in all of this, right? As much as possible. And in a lot of ways, and the grossest part about it is that they're going to stand on the graves of people in order to do so.
listen, bro, why are you wiggling your slides? Don't wiggle your slides.
What are you doing? Walking?
How could you betray me by wiggling a slide?
Get on some roller skates. Stop vibrating my gun.
Yeah. Ride a banana board. Get out of here with all that shaking.
Yeah, well, and I don't know, it's disappointing, right? I see a comment about you know, Gray Guns parts in Legion series. Yeah, the Legions have Gray Guns adjustable triggers in them. I think Gray Guns has had a positive reputation. I'm not sure it's deserved anymore. There's some interesting bits about patents that were sold by Gray Guns to Sig to solve some safety issues here. Yep, I see there it is in the comment right now, in chat right now. And you know, there's a point where it's what's your reputation worth, right? What's your integrity worth? And so it's disappointing. I do think like the Gray Guns trigger for the 229 is actually the best part about the 229 Legion. It's the only good part about the 229 Legion, actually. But you know, it's would I buy a product from Gray Guns right now? No.
So here's what I believe is going to happen. Here's what I believe is going to happen. Some general someplace likely has already started movement on this, because they can't just say they goofed, They can't. It never happens, right, at all. Because even when it's really obvious that they goof, they don't directly say it. There's been a lot of movements of COA Glocks recently, and what I think is going to happen is because the MHS program had a critical flaw, and that was nobody's putting plates on these guns. Nobody's going to issue plates with these guns. What you do is that you make both individual units a serialized item, and you basically do your best to weld them together. And that's how that's going to go. And at that point, right now, this is the M19. And it sounds great because it's close to 1911 now. Right. And the M19, which makes sense, will then start to slowly replace the M17 as a whole, because it actually does what the MHS program handguns were supposed to do. That's what I believe is going to happen. It will take some time. I might be out by the time it happens, right? And my career may go another 10 years. I'm not sure yet. I'm at 17, for those wondering, because I have no idea what in the hell I'm even going to do. But point is that like I may be out before that actually happens. But what I do know, based off of a little bit of the background scuttlebutt, is that the Army has, well, the United States government, they're not even announcing themselves, not the Army, has been procuring COA Glocks in big numbers, to the point where some people are wondering if the gun is canceled. And it very well may be for public sales for a bit. Right? Just like how I believe this started as a replacement for the M110, because the thing is 48 feet long with a can on it. The 417 started making its way into U.S. Army armories as the M110A1, right? And I think that we'll see a bunch more of those procured, and the Spear will quietly go the way of the XM8 if the XM8 was permitted one extra step. Right? So, and then the M4 will just keep on with it, the greatest statement that has ever been heard by any procurement attempt ever, and that's not enough of a justifiable advantage. Right? That's because, like, M855A1, right? Out of a 14.5, it hurts the M4 for sure. But what it does is give you almost 20-inch muzzle velocity out of a 14.5. And that's going to be like, that's enough.
What about the 995? Is that going to get issued or no?
What's that?
Is the 995 or the 955? Which one is there's one that's newer than the A1 round. I don't know. I've only, yeah.
I'm not entirely sure about that, but what I do understand is what's making movement into armories and that sort of stuff now.
Yeah.
What's being evaluated as a whole, and the Army will never call it the M27, but I think because they want to do a lot more suppressed stuff, and M4s, that system is not very good, especially in that format for suppressed use. A lot of other guys like your will be there in 96 hours units will start getting like M27s, most likely, right? Because they're starting to right now evaluate it alongside all of that. But still, right? I don't see the M4 making much movement at all, because if that was the case, if the Army was wholesale adopting something, it would have made the same movement that the M17 did. 3 years, it's in. It's replaced basically everything. You know, by 5, even all the reservists everywhere have replaced their M9s. And when engineer reservists have replaced all their M9s with M17s, everybody's got them now, because nobody gives a shit about engineers. So I appreciate you a lot. Mr. View at your own risk.
That's a good name.
That's a good name, dude. Well, and I appreciate that, right? Like, I recognize that my recommendations and the data that I follow could very well end up in combat. And we're not talking like faraway lands and things like that. Like I said in the video released yesterday, it's, the guy that's coming home from work lives in a rough area and he's got to carry this thing, right? That's the guy I'm concerned about, right? So I'm not going to sit there and get bought off by some small arms company that wants to delude people into thinking they have a good product.
I looked it up. I looked it up. Mike, or Miles Ferris was right. It's like what they issue out if they think you're actually going to get armor. It's tungsten cord instead of steel cord. It's the M995.
Oh, that's what you're making reference to. Yeah. Yeah, that sucker's been around for quite some time, right?
Yeah. I'm just saying that there was already an answer.
Yeah, and this is going through straight steel, right? Like that's been the answer for a long time. You still get high pressure issues, but at least like high pressure 5.56 on a carbine length 5.56 is still going to last way longer than any Spear.
And you don't have to change the rifle out.
Also, the U.S. government pays like $40 for their bolts. They do not pay a whole lot at all for new bolts and spare parts and things like that. And they are changing those out quite a bit, right? The M27 is a 16.5-inch barreled 416. Marine Corps has been using it for some time. They replaced a 249 with it because their theology was, instead of having the 249, we could just have everyone get an accurate automatic rifle that we could suppress if we want to, but we like the external piston, deal with the extra pound up front. Also 16.5 because we like violence, and bayonet lugs on a 416 because we extra like violence. That, as far as the Marine Corps is concerned, all of their like infantry or combat troops, they're replacing the M4 with that. So the fact that any ARMA server could have developed a better rifle program will never not be hilarious. I mean, yeah.
Not untrue.
I mean, there's no way there's not true. I mean, that's all the way in there, right? Hey man, we travel, we go places. I'm getting ready to go to Mississippi. I go to Lebanon, Pennsylvania, right? Like, I'm going to Huntsville, Ohio for a cold weather carbine course because I hate my life. And people are like, I want to suck. Come in December, just stuff like that. We traveled, dude. So, that's a long rifle, my guy. That's a long gun. What I've noticed more than anything else is Afghanistan was perfect for M16s. Getting in and out of trucks with them, that super sucks. But like, that was great for M16s. But one of the reasons, again, for MA55A1 is that you nearly get 20-inch velocity out of a 14.5-inch carbine. So in context, especially like that, there isn't much reason to have the 20-inch gun, right? Because you get full powder burn anyway, so you don't get much of an increase at all out of a 20-inch gun, right? And I'm going to take the M4A1, but generally speaking, I'm not going to put the can on it because now I have, a 20-inch rifle. That's not the point. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. But yeah, so I mean, these are the points that people miss more than anything else about Sig Sauer is that, they swindled people and they figured it was for contracts, but a lot of people don't realize how bad that rifle contract is, because aside of things just falling apart inside of them, right? You have stuff just falling off of them. One of the most common broken things on the Spear, for instance, is its folding charging handle. And most users that break it have no idea what happened to it. because much like wearing unit patches in the woods because your command sucks, it just disappears.
Sometimes they just do that, man. They just
Yeah, because that's what I need
it's
in my
gone.
friggin' charging handle is
Fine.
is a magician charging handle. That's exactly what I need, dude.
Feature.
Yeah, it's a feature because it's a Bluetooth charging handle, I suppose. But you know, that is what it is. But more or less, yeah. I mean, if there is more that comes out from the Sig Sauer anything, I don't see it as terribly good. Right? Like, at least you guys, are there any ways for improvement here besides fire Cohen?
You know, they've dug such a deep hole with the P320, and it was bad. They weren't in a great place, and then their social media team, just amazing, right? There, it ends today, right? They're legalistic, you know, foot on the ground, saying this is it, we're done, our gun is safe. Was just absolutely asinine, and from a communication standpoint, right, made zero sense. Just enraged basically everyone, became meme fodder, and then as more and more of these uncommanded discharges have appeared, and there've been, you know, dozens since social media post, it gets brought up again and again and again. And so, how do you come back from that? You go bankrupt, because you're going to have to. The only way to do it is to say these guns are broken. We have redesigned the internals in whatever way they've redesigned them. You recall 100% of them, or as Gio was saying in the comments you make, you know, Lucas Botkin CEO, that might work too. I think T-Rex might have hired Sig's social media team. You're going to have to fix every single gun, and they've sold millions of them. So you're going to either have to buy them back, right, or fix them, and that's going to take you years. So it's years of reputational repair work if they can even manage it, and it might bankrupt them. I don't know. What do you think, Evan?
Oh, well, like I have no skin in this. I never liked the 320 as a pistol. I never liked the way it felt. I thought the military going to it was silly. There were so many, like I was a big M9 what was it, the A3 A3 or A4 fan. I thought that was the best option because you could just reuse the same mags, and like the training wouldn't be all that different. And but like I'll never buy another Sig, old or new. Like I don't want to be associated with the name now.
Yeah, it's like Remington, but also their PR department did something for Hollywood, probably.
Well, and like this is coming from a Smith. This is coming from me, a Smith guy, and I understand Smith and Wesson. Like nowadays, you kind of get the gun you get, and if you just kind of have to test everyone that comes into the shop and see if everything's good on it, and might be a chance you have to send it back to Smith, but Smith at least doesn't say it's your fault. They go, all right, just send it back. We'll take care of it. Like,
and I don't see a way out, right? Because
No.
agencies won't touch them, or they're finding a way out of them.
Yep.
Right. You're not going to survive based off of your size on a few agencies here and there. The civilian populace wants nothing to do with you.
Mhm.
Right. The only guys that shoot 320s now, and it's basically the same as before all of this in the first place, are guys that wear scarves and prescriptionless glasses and shit like that. Right. They just want to be different, just cause, you know, living on the edge, I suppose. Right. Yeah,
Well-
and in order for them to recover, they'd have to make like Lucas Botkin, like Gio said, you know, the new CEO, and he would have to found a brand new, you know, training division, fire everybody, and name the new training division, you know, like Asteroid Dynamics or some shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's tragic, right? Because, you know, there are some okay products that Sig has made, and I think there are good people that work there. You know, and you've got I think management that's made some really questionable decisions. I think they've done kind of the actual actuarial tables on like how many people will get killed by uncommanded discharges and decided it's worth the risk because the profit margin is there. And so they've made these choices that I think have the potential to really, a Velociraptor Arms would be a good name, you know,
Or he
to
just
really
or he
screw
forms a
themselves.
consulting or he forms a consulting company for businesses called Meteor Management. You know.
Well,
Carbon
I mean,
Force
if I'm
next.
I mean, if I'm Sig, right, the safest thing to do, right, just from a business standpoint, is I spin out my optics division into a standalone company. I spin out the 365 into a standalone company, and then I go through Chapter 7 bankruptcy liquidation of everything else.
Like,
And that gets me out of all the liability for the P320, and I salvage the one line that might actually be okay.
so Colby, I agree and disagree, right? Because it's not just the portion of them that is the portion of the population that's terminally online, right? Because, like, for instance, military organizations are notorious for not knowing fucking anything about gun stuff, like, at all, right? When memorandums are making their way all over the place, right? That, like, I've drafted a couple of memorandums and then had them approved later on down the line that mandate their soldiers to not carry with a round in the chamber, right? To essentially unload the thing as fast as possible. That the thing is busted out like a fire extinguisher. You use it, you deplete it. That's it. You don't walk around with loaded guns for any longer than you have to, and as often as possible, you don't load it and then holster it. Right. So for qualifications and stuff, a lot of these guys are saying, hey, if you're going to load it, you keep that sucker out of the friggin' holster. You don't draw it. You're not allowed to draw it. Right? You're going to do your pistol qualification. You're going to unload the friggin' thing, verify show clear, and then you will put it back in a holster. Like, these are the types of memorandums that are running around military organizations right now. Right? And if it gets, and this is like general population stuff at this point. And if it isn't, guys that are in those units are like, I'm not loading this thing. Right? So when it gets to that, right? And this is, I mean, you're fucked when this happens.
Mhm.
Right? When Charlie is doing a video on Sig Sauer retardation.
I'm very old. I don't even know who that is, but I will
He's
pretend he's a
I've
YouTuber.
heard of it.
He's a gigantic streamer that, like, he will post a nothing stream and get like 4 million hits on the VOD that posts afterward.
Fair.
Fair enough.
Right. And you know, so he's one of those dudes that just will amass a bajillion dollars on ad revenue because he tied his shoes online or some shit. So when a guy like that is like, this gun's dangerous, and then shows the guy with the screw that's in the front of the trigger and he's wiggling the thing around and it fires the primer, right? You done goofed. Right? Because also he's a Florida man, and so he owns guns.
Mm.
Right? So it's and you know what? I know this guy is messing around. I know that you're messing around. By the way, great name. Super.
No, he's not messing around. There's a comment a couple above that he's questioning, and I agree that Dark Wolf is right to question it.
To question what?
Oh, Seahawk. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean
Seahawk-
that's just it's just
Seahawk
nonsense.
Go.
The what?
It's
Just go up. You'll see it's the longest one up above.
yeah,
About
it's
unofficial
nonsensical.
discharges.
Yeah, that's just absolute, complete and utter nonsense.
Where is it? I don't see it.
9:34 p.m. Right above you at your own risk and after your Matt Hilton. You see it?
32, 32. Hold on, I'm looking.
Scrolling is hard.
Shouldn't even have to scroll. Seahawk Eye.
Yeah, I'll just read what he wrote.
Oh.
It's fine. You got it?
Proof is look up the CDC. There's a list of 800 plus cases. Go through the list, and then he goes, "Seahawk is full of shit."
Yeah, look, the Glocks are still in use by more police agencies in the U.S. than any other firearm. There are simply not videos coming out every other day of Glock 19s and 17s and 34s discharging in holsters as somebody exits a vehicle. It's just not a thing.
Okay, so here it is. The hard truth: the Glock and the 320 are near tied for the most unintended discharges for this year, with the Glock possibly being more. Next is Taurus and the M&P. You can see for yourself. Okay, so now I'm going to bully you some.
Wait, is that Bruce Trey's alternate account? Is that who that is?
That is quite possibly the dumbest thing I have ever heard in my entire life. Again, I have been active as a schoolhouse for about 10 years now. Right, we're just barely underneath there. In a decade, the number one pistol that I see at every class is a Glock, and in very, very far second place is a 2011 and then an M&P. Right? I tell people not to buy 2011s all the time because they're annoying guns, but then they're like, but I'm gonna go buy this one. Yeah, because they shoot nice. I got it. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yep.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life, because I have not seen a catastrophic malfunction, an explodey kind, with a sample size that dwarfs the 320, like by the thousands at this point.
I will say I've heard of one Glock uncommanded discharge, and it was anecdotally, and it was in a fucking high-speed car accident where the cop got T-boned, and the entire center console of the Crown Vic went into the gun, and it flexed so hard that it went off. But it's one time, and that was an anecdotal thing. I don't even know if that's true. That was just something some guy said, and it's a thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Born and raised, Miles. Yeah, well, and that's the thing, dude, is that like you have to really go hunt for anything remotely close to that, and then you like negligent discharges are a separate category.
That's right.
They're a separate category. They're people shooting the guns versus it's sitting there and now a round has gone through the pipe. Those are different things. Stop it. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Yep.
Okay. In my active time as a full-time, this is what I do, trainer, I cannot recall at all a Glock being rendered into a state of I can't use it anymore unless you dicked it all the way up and sent it to Suarez or something. Like you have to do something way off the wall to make that not work. Right? I have never seen a 1911 or a 2011 have an out of battery detonation, as a for instance. I have never seen an M&P critically stop. Ever. Right?
I've had a lot of M&Ps.
Yeah.
Well, I've had M&Ps a long time.
And the only M9s I've ever seen critically stop are overshot military M9s.
Yeah, it's absolute nonsense to try and equate an ND with an uncommanded discharge, and you should feel bad about it.
Yeah, it just looking at the data is not the same as actually reading. Okay, because the CDC will track things like negligent discharges. Sure. However, that's not the same thing.
Yep.
That's not the same thing. To equate the two is straight up. The CDC doesn't collect statistics on unintentional discharges. In the Sig P320 sense, they're talking about kids dying because their parents didn't store their firearms safely. I don't know why I did. I don't know why I didn't put that on the fucking screen.
Yeah, look, and the CDC data can be weird anyway, because sometimes they consider a 19-year-old a child because it makes the numbers look worse, but it doesn't matter, right? The fact is, there are more Glocks on the planet than there are basically any other pistol at this point. So obviously, law of very large numbers says more of those might have NDs, but that's different from a stock. And there's a comment about this in the chat. A stock Sig P320 in a holster discharging on its own when a female school resource officer exits her vehicle and nothing touches the holster. It's not the same. And if
Oh,
you don't
no,
understand how it's not the same,
Oh, no, you see, you're a liar because she touched the A-frame of that car with her holster. She caused that. That was her human input, you see.
yeah.
Stop rattling guns in the holsters. How often do I have to
Anybody who
say this?
actually believes that either was microwaved for a couple of seconds as a child because their older brother or sister wanted to see what happened, or they're on Sig's payroll. It's that simple.
This. Also.
Yeah, well, there's that too. As long as you hold it the right way, it's fine.
Well, if they got switches, they're shooting their own thumbs a lot. Doing this number.
And no, I haven't seen this. And I haven't seen this, most likely because whatever it is some really off-the-wall thing. Right?
Yep.
People sleep on Smith & Wesson also. Because as far as striker-fired pistols go, okay, I have no reason to not own like 7. Okay. It's kind of like, to me, MMPs are kind of like stand-up comics to me. You have the ones that you like, and there's one that everyone likes, and you're like, nah. I don't have a reason, just no. That's it. It's literally it. They're good guns. I've shot, I had a 1.0 forever ago.
Me too.
You know, and the same guy that butchered my friggin' Glock 21 butchered that one too, if you recall, Evan.
I remember that gun. I remember being able to shake it with the slide lock back, and the slide would just slam forward. It was so loose you could just rattle the gun, and this. But it ran, and it didn't fucking go off on its own.
What do you want?
I have a 2.0. I like it. I have the little, was it the 3.6 inch barrel, but the 15 round frame.
Yeah.
Then I put a threaded barrel and a comp on it, and it's shorter than a Glock 17 with a threaded barrel. It's actually shorter than the TLR1.
Yeah. So I mean, like all of that is all of that is nonsensical inflation of non-existent issues. It's just not. I am certain a Glock somewhere, an MMP somewhere on the planet, someplace, fired without command. By roll of the dice from the millions that are out there. Sure, I'll give you that. It's not by the thousands.
Yeah. Again,
you know what? No. Let's pretend that that's a hyperbolic case. I'm sorry. By the hundreds. Okay, you know what? Let's pretend that that's a hyperbolic case. By the dozens. There just ain't dozens of that case. With an MMP, with a Glock, with an M9, with a 226 even. I'll give it that, right? I don't have many reasons to like the 226, mostly because it's like a USP on a diet. You just don't hear about this with service pistols. You don't hear about this from fucking High Points. Knock it off.
And it's again, it's a design issue, right? The Glock, the M&P were designed as striker-fired pistols from the get-go. It was not a P250 that they went, oh, this gun is trash. Let's put a striker in it, and maybe we can sell some of them. And then you end up with, just garbage. Should we all go E11? Yes.
Yeah. They still recoil. I got to teach you how to posture up behind that thing. Use the stock, idiot.
That's what it's there for.
That's what it's there for. Extended. What's wrong with you?
Where's your bipod?
Stop hip firing it.
Scope DL 44 long.
Listen. I'll just say it. It's not always Siggers, but it's always a Sigger.
Mm.
Okay. I'll use the hard ER for that one, I suppose.
Sure.
I guess it depends on what I'm doing, because you have like a HUD, right?
The scope just looks cooler though.
I mean, yeah, dope. Well, I mean, could you run them in tandem? Because now it's just both together, right? It's like an LPVO, but not stupid. You know. But in any case, right? Yeah, good. I'm glad. He's safer for it. I don't care if he armed himself with a fucking slingshot. He's better protected, and he's safe. Also, ball bearings coming out of slingshots suck.
You imagine getting swacked with like you're a mass shooter.
Get on the ground, put your hands up. Sack.
Just hanging out, and some guy's got like triple up buck pellets.
Stop.
Like just
Stop it. Stop whining.
oh.
Stop whining. Stop whining.
Yeah, Ellie's just had enough of the Siggers in the chat, I'm afraid.
Tired of it.
Yeah, she's here and it's like, CDC doesn't do uncommanded discharges. Ha! Yeah, the day I can do a 6,000 shot blaster rifle class or whatever, right? Like I can do a review on blasters. I'm all the way about it. Of course, right when this guy says this, she walked off somewhere.
No.
Yep, she's in the hallway. But yeah, I mean, so that's more or less what we're dealing with, right? And you know, for those that didn't know all of the stuff that was coming in about this, or at least a full picture of what it is that we've got going on with Sig Sauer and that sort of stuff, it goes far, 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 like further down the road of you guys should probably pack up and go the fuck home than just a pistol that's unsafe. And I say just a pistol that's unsafe. That sucks too, dude. You know, maybe those two words exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for
Those are English words, if you must
they
say.
are. I mean, for how many years did we say, look, the gun can't go off unless you pull the trigger? Guns don't shoot themselves, except that maybe if it's all and coppers there too. Maybe they do now, right?
Yeah. You know, I mean, surely those two words exist. Maybe on a during like engineering stuff, right? We had talked about. Okay, well, you had an uncommanded discharge in the middle of our trial or whatever. You're out, right? Because before this, right? If someone had a particular model of pistol, and were like, I swear to God, it went off by itself. You're like, whatever, dude. You
There's
just
no
suck.
way.
You
Yeah. What do you have?
whatever, man. Get demoted, idiot.
Skill issue. We were all Sig, really.
Have
You
fun
really
with
look
15
some
sticks
side
of extra
stuff,
duty,
we're all
dude.
Sig.
Now it's
What if it has been happening and we've just all been gaslighting everyone?
but now it's just like if dude does this, you're like, oh crap, you didn't touch it. We gotta file a report. But let's go attack Sig. Like, how do you do that to a whole culture of gun dudes that are so fast to blame shit on people? Right? It could never be the machine. You just suck. That was the whole culture of gun guy. If a gunshot fired and your hands were like this, even if they were, they're just like, nah, you did something. You wiggled it in there. There's something in that holster. Let me see that. Get off of my range. My name is Tim, and this range is closed.
What kind of trigger job you got in there?
You
You
know,
always assumed it was some like Dremel job. that,
Yeah,
like, put
right.
something back
Nope.
together.
Turns out it's just poorly mim parts, poorly mimmed
Perfect.
parts.
It ends today.
It NDs today. Yeah, it's
Yeah, man. Yeah, Frito scoops. I was backstage just munching on them, being annoying.
It's classic Monjay the Scoot.
Hold on, that wasn't the one. This is the one.
his wife might object to that, but you know.
All right, AA Ron. Oh man. Hey, you know what? And this is true too. Before all this came out,
Yep.
I bet a bunch of guys went from 4 to 3, and nobody believed them over it.
Well, you know, even outside of military circles, I remember when the P320 first came out, and there was a guy over on, I think it might have been TFB, who was the first guy to like hit the back of a P320 with a hammer, and it discharged. He dropped it and it discharged, and he ran a story. And they tried to bury it. They kicked him out. Forget what his name was, but I mean, it was a big deal, right? Nobody wanted to believe that the gun could possibly just
Same
fucking shoot
CEO.
yourself.
That was the same CEO because it was
Yeah.
a Kimber that he shown. So
It was the same guy.
That is true. There's a pattern, frankly.
we all owe Tex Brebner an
Oh
apology.
man.
Thank you, Pew Pew. Yep, it was Patrick R. Thank you. That's who it was. He
Listen,
got basically
listen.
canceled for it.
Let's talk about good old Tex Grebner. You know what? At least he didn't try to hide that shit.
No, he posted
He
that shit.
became a pariah for owning a mistake.
Mm.
I gotta say, man, that takes some guts. That takes some bravery. It was a friggin' Serpa holster, too, dude.
It was a Serpa. It was
was.
just perfect. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just it was just fantastic. In every
It was
way.
one of the first true gun memes. I just fucking shot myself. Everyone who's heard that hears that exact voice.
Yep.
Right. Oh God, yeah. Tex Grebner outdoors.
Didn't he go to Rifle Dynamics after that? Or no, it was not
Before-
Rifle Dynamics. What am
I
talking
think
about?
before that,
Tactical
he was.
Response.
Yeah, I think he was all about like TAPCO stuff on his rifle, and then he started taking classes, and magically,
Yeah.
Rifle Dynamics is the greatest like producer of firearms ever. Yeah, and you know, here's the deal, right? Like, you can't even say that about 320 stuff, right? It's my gun just fucking shot me, right? Because, you know, like that dude said in the last stream that we did, you know, the shot should surprise you. It's just their new tagline now. You know, so yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? Like, once you put it out there, right? He wore that like armor. Nobody could hurt him with that, dude. He's like, yeah, I was the guy. I did it. What am I gonna do? Say I didn't do it?
Is he limped around the internet?
Poor guy.
I remember that video shattering my entire universe on how powerful 45 is. I remember seeing it be like, wait.
The man knockdowner did that?
Yeah. The one that a BAR man said was better than a BAR did that?
Yeah, this. Because, like, at least you had to do something to Glocks to get him to fire, you know?
That's right.
Well, you gotta remember.
And that was like a big training scar, like prepping double action triggers. It was a big deal.
Yeah. Well, and like revolvers came from a time where trigger discipline was a wives' tale. So you either had single action guns where you actually had the cock at the fire at, or you had double action guns with a 12-pound, 9 to 12-pound pole. And if it's cocked, even more.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, and okay, there's some older cats in here that remember old internet. You know, when like when like intros to videos and channels was like corn, you know.
Yes.
But yeah, man. I mean that's more or less the skinny on this whole deal. And
Didn't
the
he
main
do a
reason for
play-by-play?
this stream. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, didn't Tex do a play-by-play video where like he went like
Didn't he? Chat, help me with this.
section by section, and just he was like, and right here I was pressing the STRP button, and the gun would not come out of the holster, but I had already swept the safety off, and so I pressed and pressed and pressed, and it came out. I think he did like when he talked about it.
Yeah, good old fart music to lead off videos with. That's great. South Park's interpretation of dubstep ruined it forever because it was like kind of cool because, you know, you're a young kid and it's like a big deal right now. And South Park turns loose that episode and you're like, it really just is a whole bunch of flatulence at once, isn't it? Oh, God. But yeah, man. Oh, God. With the glass, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with the glass breaking, that
When they
was.
shoot the concrete and it's like their name gets shot.
Oh yeah.
This is also when there were still gun magazines floating around.
Yes, paper.
Yeah.
Fun time.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, you got to respect that.
He did. Yeah.
Yeah.
He told people he did wrong.
You know, and people give a lot of people different flag for stuff, but I can always like get behind somebody who's like, nope, I 100% did that. Like when God, what's his name? Two thumbs way up guy. Help me. Such when he shot his car.
Hide over bore.
Or when he also did it when he shot the chest that he used to do with fuse on. He was doing something with a Sig and just or CZ and just fired it in.
Yep. Freaking blasted his car. He's like, yep, 100% did that. He did like a play-by-play too. He's like, yep, this is how I did it, and this is why I did it, and this is why you shouldn't do that.
2 thumbs way down.
And I disapprove a lot. You know, that guy's still kicking around doing his own thing.
Yeah. Hey, that dude will show you how to take apart a brand new gun if like he will not tell you if something's good, but if you need to figure out how to like take something apart, he'll just show you.
It's good stuff. Yeah, but I mean, but here's the deal, right? The reason behind this stream is more or less because I got personally offended. I got a little ass mad at Sig Sauer, mostly because now they're trying to direct people to tell on me, right? And that's like a unique sort of fuck you, right? Because what you would rather have is you would rather stand on the graves of people that have been killed by your product or wounded forever, right? Than admit that your manufacturing practices are trash, that you're spending beyond your means on a military contract that you rigged up to start because you're selling the units at cost. And it has to be actually worse now. I can't imagine they might be making negative dollars per unit on the M17, M18 at this point. And now they want to come after people that refuse to let that garbage in their classes when any reasonable instructor that actually wants his students to like live remember when the gun community was extremely overreactive over the slightest safety thing. Like if you had a camera on a tripod in front of the gun or downrange of the gun, right? People would light you up for it because you're going to shoot your camera or whatever, right? Imagine this happening then. Right? And now people just want to make excuses for it because there's enough guys that are bought and paid for. And now, you know, what personally offended me on this is that you would rather put my students in danger and then sue me. Now, that's likely not going to happen now because the entire public knows of this shenanigans. And again, I would go into debt forever. I would fight. And I'm pretty sure the entire gun community would back me on it too, because now this is the one guy that we get to put all this effort behind. And now we get to drag all of this dirty laundry out. Right? But that's the thing, is you put me in the unique position of it's either I back off or I stand on principle, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. That's why this stream exists. That's why I'm going to highlight things about your fraudulent programs that do not. Hold on, let me back up. No, not specifically. What I'm saying is that they put this up on their website to essentially say, you know, hey, people are spreading misinformation. Let us know what class you weren't allowed to bring your 320 in so that we can correct them as far as proper information goes. And in PR speak, that's let us write their name down for you.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, you know, there's a comment in the chat right now from Rockpool. It's to Seahawk, and this is the thing, right? I've bought, you know, hook, line, and sinker into platforms before. Got the gun, got the holster, got the optic, got the magazines. I've realized it was trash or it didn't work for me, and I've gotten rid of it. I haven't tried to make it work, right? So if you've got a P320, don't base your whole personality around it. Get rid of it, get something else. It's just that easy. It's a gun. It's not that big of a deal, unless you know you're carrying it and it shoots you or shoots somebody else when they don't need to be shot.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is that I'm a sent. Oh well, yeah. This is just funny.
Did not have that for August, no, but maybe we should have.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And that's the like I put, and many other trainers, right, are this way, where you pour a lot of time, effort, energy into just making something work as far as a training program, because it's a client-based system, right? It's volatile. You got to be stable. You got to figure out how this is going to work. You need to figure out your individual customer acquisition cost. You have to not spend beyond your means. You also have to make sure that your curriculum is up to date, and you have to go through all the measures to do that. And you have to constantly plan for improvement, and you have to modify your curriculum and deal with your students' progression stages, sometimes to the individual roster. And now you have to deal with this. Now, again, you're not, because the second that Sig Sauer would create this precedent, it would be a firestorm. They're already dealing with a firestorm. They don't need a second one, right? After all, World War II ended on a second nuke, right? You know, it, you know, the memes talking about, you know, they can't keep getting away with this. I don't think they are any longer, right? So I figured, you know, we might as well do this stream to more or less give people the grand old picture as far as the overall stuff. And there are other channels that go into much, much greater detail on things like sexual harassment stuff, like legit sexual harassment stuff in the workplace at Sig Sauer. That goes completely unaddressed or deflected, or, you know, bullying the complainant. You know, like Protoband, for instance. At least I hope I said that correctly. Protoband has been very, very detailed in his assessment on the Sig 320 stuff in general. And my guy, he does a lot of work on it. So if you're interested in figuring out more of this, you should check him out, honestly. I think the time has come where we acknowledge that the people making excuses for this are just, they're just not real people at this point. They're either bots, right? Or they're paid off, or they're just in denial.
Yep.
And that's just how it has to be, because at this point, if it was one, entirely too many people have died.
Yep.
And it isn't. It isn't one. It isn't two. It isn't three. Right? So, nah. As much as possible, I'm going to make sure that, you're not bringing a 320 class, right? And the very second that their quality control starts to take a nosedive on the 365, that's going to be banned too. Yeah. Ferris, I'm going to kill everyone in this fucking house. Not really. Don't fucking swat me. Jesus Christ. Just people making noise when I'm trying to, have a serious moment. But even still,
There it is.
Perfect. Right? Now, I recognize, logistics are logistics, right? And replacing something that you invested a lot of money into, that's hard. There are guys walking around that can't move the, at this point, valued at, with money sank into it, $2,500 handgun. Right? And we're not just talking about what's on board. We're talking about the iterative stuff that's been changed out and things like that. And I recognize that, right? And I understand, right? That was like their entire system. It revolved around that. They got like 100 magazines for it. That's not an unrealistic thing to say. But if you got other stuff in the house, as a for instance, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, look, if you have to keep it, I get it, but one, be smart about it, right? Maybe you shouldn't carry an appendix with around in the chamber, and carrying on without around in the chamber is not a great idea, but
It's the only gun
neither
you
is the
got.
gun shooting somebody in a parking lot because you bumped your holster into the A pillar.
Yep.
Sure,
So,
you could find some boomer pawn shop that doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, man. Well, we're at the just over 2-hour mark on this, and I try to do these once a month and not try to beat people to death with streams because the concept of constantly streaming just kind of seems like the most boy sex thing I can think of. But until next time, unless you guys have anything else to add to this conversation.
No, I don't got anything. I don't have anything. I heard they have a 2011 that I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
That's it.
Takes 320 mags, so there's that.
Oh.
Hmm.
I have
I
none.
think.
Sig Sauer making a 2011. It just sounds like the
What could
worst.
possibly go wrong?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
totally fine.
Yeah, CEO Kimber just made a Kimber. Okay, yeah, I'm totally down with that.
Perfecto.
Yeah, perfecto. I can't wait to see how that turns itself into a problem. But in any case, I think we're about done here, lads. I appreciate you all for coming out because we had no right to have 300 of you. But they saw Sig Sauer and they came running. I hope that we said some things that you didn't know about the present Sig Sauer situation, based off of the present knowledge that I have, not just with guys in the industry and stuff, but with guys that are actually running around with the things, guys that are in manufacturing, that sort of deal. And with that said, you all have a good night. We'll see you next month.
Later.